Hey there, comic book fans. It's Rusty again with Collector Auctions, and you caught me in the car again, headed to a small comic book show here in the Baltimore, D.C. area, down in Annandale, Virginia. Now, this is a little firehouse show that they have down here about once every month, and I usually go down to them when it's on a Sunday, but sometimes they'll have these on Saturdays, and I cannot make it to that show because I got to get back to work on a Saturday. So we're heading down today. We're going to see what we can find. I'm probably going to be looking for some of my Invaders books. I'm trying to finish that run. We're going to try to find some of the books on my 2024 goals list, and then just be an open book to see if there's anything else that pops up on the radar. But it's going to be fun today, just looking around, see what I can find. And what I'll do is I'll take some footage from the show. I'll come back and I'll show off anything that I pick up. So stay tuned, and I'll be right back. All right, everybody, I just finished up at the Annandale Firehouse with a little comic book show there. Had a great time. I got to see some of the dealers that I know on a first-name basis. Got to go through a lot of great books, and I ended up picking up a few things. And just a heads up, they were not on my radar, but they are good books. They are books I've picked up in the past, and I picked them up mostly because of the condition of them. So once I get home, I will show off those books. But I'll tell you, what's funny is I didn't really see anything that was jumping out at me that was on basically my current wish list or my 2024 goals list. But the books that were jumping off at everybody, it seemed like at multiple different stands, were Dave Stevens covered books. It could be anything. Even the Good Girl books and the Good Girl art, that is, and even the Rocketeer and some of the non-female covers, everything was going. And I ended up looking at a few myself, but I still have some copies of some Dave Stevens books, including that Johnny Quest #5. I got additional copies of Airboy. There's a few other things in there too. I can't remember right off. So even though I looked at some things, prices are a little high still for Rawls, because I think everybody knows that the books are really popular, and 9/8 on these do pretty good. They're not, some of them are better than others, but the price on the Rawls that I was seeing in this room are extremely high. So your margin, if you want to get one of those graded and you hope you get that 9/8, and if you're planning on selling it at all, you're going to end up not having a lot of margin in there, because the Rawl prices are super high, and some dealers are worse than others. But regardless, I had a great time at the show, and as I said, I did pick up a couple books, and when I get home, I'll show those off to you. So sit back, and I will be right back.
2 hours later.
All right, guys, I made it back home. Had a great time again at the Annandale Comic Book Show, and it was great to see some of the people that I know there that set up as dealers. We got Jimmy with Battlefield Comics. We've got the guys from the Eclectic Nerd. Great guys, great books, and I hope they had a great show. For me, I found a lot of stuff there, but nothing really jumped out at me. Like I said previously as I was driving home there were a lot of Dave Stevens books. Boy, there were a lot of Dave Stevens books, and people were putting the price tags on those things. And I know that the values on a lot of those aren't really over $400 as a 9.8. And I know that because I just recently got back 8 different Dave Stevens covers, and I only had, I think I've got 7 out of the 8 had 9/8, all different covers, and I valued all of those. And outside of maybe a couple, most of them were under a $400 price tag for a 9.8 currently in this market. Now, a month ago, it was maybe some of them were over that $400, maybe even over $500. I know that my Crossfire number 12 with the Marilyn Monroe cover is a really good book. That's over a $600 book, actually. But I actually didn't see that cover. That was one of the Dave Stevens books I didn't see. But they had covers all over the place, books all over, and the price tags were really high on everything. So I think the real market right now, if you're selling, sell your Rawls, because I think you can probably do pretty good with that. For me, I didn't buy any Dave Stevens books, and part of that was the books that I was interested in. I've already got copies here at the house that still need to be submitted to CGC, so I didn't feel like putting in money out again on that. One of the dealers actually had some really good Airboy covers, and it's that Airboy Valkyrie cover from issue number 5, and I was tempted, but I actually have a couple sitting here at the house still to be graded, and I'm actually going to see most of these same dealers in about 2, maybe 3 weeks here in Maryland, when they're going to be setting up at the Frederick Comic-Con. It's actually hosted by the same people who put on the show in Annandale. And I'm going to see those dealers there. I will see those same books, I'm sure, there as well. So I will consider maybe some more Dave Stevens books. But what's going to be nice about the Frederick Comic-Con is that we're going to have a lot more dealers than you did today at the Annandale show. So as for the show itself, other than the Dave Stevens books, what was I looking for? Well, you know me, I'm looking for Invaders, and I've only need about 4 or 5 issues left to complete the run, and I couldn't find hardly any Invaders books there, and the ones that I did were one of 2 things. 1, I already had it, or 2, the conditions were just not worth getting. They were a lot of spine ticks. They were very red copies, just not what I was looking for at all. And when I couldn't find that, I revert back to some of my 2024 goals list. What books am I looking for? Things like that. And honestly, nothing was really jumping out at me. So I kind of dove into a couple of dealers that have got some really good books, but they're not organized, and I'm not a fan of that, but I know this one particular dealer in the back of the room, if you go through his boxes, you can find some gems, and it may not be exactly what you're looking for, and a lot of times you'll find stuff that the condition isn't what you want either, but occasionally you'll find some gems hidden in there, and I think it sometimes at decent prices. And that's where I ended up finding the books that I ended up buying today. Let me show you what I picked up. Now, not on my radar as a current need. In fact, I've got both of these books, but when I saw them in the current condition, or the condition that they're in, I'm going, hey, those are really good books. I know these are partial keys, nothing huge, but really good books. And they're all early Bronze Age. Start with Marvel feature number 12, the last issue of this run. Is that right? I think it's the last issue. Maybe it's the last issue with the... I know issues 11 and 12 had the Thing as a team-up, and then he got his own title with Marvel 2 and 1, with the Thing running the entire length of that book. But this book right here, I remember I had this as a child, loved this book. You had Jim Starlin doing the artwork in this. It is an early Thanos appearance as well. You've got the Blood Brothers. Of course, these same characters, you got Iron Man. These are the same characters that you found in the Captain Marvel run when they introduced Thanos in that storyline versus Captain Marvel. And Blood Brothers were in that. And just, this is an overall really good book. But I've got this book. And so you go, Russ, why did you end up getting this? If nothing's jumping out at you, why did this jump out? Well, the condition is what got me right here. And I think I ended up spending about $22 a piece on these. I was about $44, $45 for the pair of the books that I ended up picking up. And it averages out to $22.50, I guess. This right here, the condition just kind of stunned me, because this is from 1973. This is from, I believe it's November of 73. In fact, both books are from 73. Mike Fedrich did the writing on this. As I said, Jim Starlin did the art. We'll take a closer look at it. We'll see what kind of clean and press it needs and see if there's anything I've really missed. But for $22, it didn't really bother me having this book. I've always loved this book. But what if it had that potential? Right now, it has that potential for that 9.8, 9.6 range. That's the first thing I thought of. Worth taking a little bit of a risk on. 9.8's currently just sold for $725. A 9.6 only went for $100. But I did a quick look on what's live right now on eBay, and I didn't see a 9.6 under $200 listed. So that's one of those, yes, it's listed a listed price. It doesn't mean that's a sold price. But if somebody's looking for that in high grade, they may not get it for $100 again at this point. 9.4 actually just went recently for $120. So there's some meat on the bones with this if we can grade this out pretty high. And again, we'll get it into the shop, give it a quick clean and press. Well, I shouldn't say quick, but we will give it a clean and press, and we'll see how it comes out. I feel like it's going to really hit those high marks, those high grades, then it may get submitted. Otherwise, I may just hold on to it and add it to the PC. As a raw, it's not a bad book to have. All right, the second book that I've got is, again, from 1973. This is from October of 73. It's interesting, October and November books. And this dealer, I don't know his name, but he's always one of the most friendly people there. And he had a huge setup. And my only complaint is the books are not organized. There's a little bit of organization in them. And he always has a really good back wall. But the books they're just kind of put in there, and you'll find runs of this and that, and then you go 3 boxes over and you'll find more books of that run you just saw, and it's all over the place. I wish they were more organized, but it's kind of fun to dive through those, because as I said, you can find some stuff in here. And so I found this. He did have a bunch of Defenders books, and as much as I am really trying to start a Defenders high-grade run, I felt like his prices overall were really high for what I consider a lot of common Defenders. I mean, we're talking Defenders issues from about 11 up through probably into the 60s. There's not a lot of keys, and I don't think that those prices should be that much. Maybe I'm just spoiled because I get a lot of Defenders high grade books off of Infinity Comics auctions on hipcomic.com, or I pick them up there's an LCS down in Virginia, Hello Comics, that I seem to pick up a lot of books down there for what I feel like are really reasonable prices. And I felt like his prices, even though he was offering a 25% discount, I felt like the prices were all too high. I felt like those were prices from 3 years ago. And no wonder I don't see him going through every book before every show and repricing things to get things to move. I think it's just the price is the price, and he offers up that 25% discount as a way to not have to reprice all the books, I guess. But this book right here, Defenders number 9, it is a minor key. It is the first time you've got the Defenders. Actually, I take that back. I don't know if it's the first time, but it's part of that. It's not. It's part of that Defenders Avengers war that was crossing over with the Avengers book, and you've got the classic cover here with Iron Man taking on Hawkeye, and it's a really good book. I recently picked it up on Infinity Comics auctions recently. It's a really good copy I picked up, but it has a little bit of staining up here in the white area. And I saw this, and again, for about $22, I picked this one up as well. And this one is again, both of these are super high grade copies with a lot of potential. This right here, 9.8s of this recently sold for $585. I'm sorry, $595. 9.6s, $250, and a 9.4 went for $150. This one's actually got a lot more meat on the bone than that Marvel feature number 12, but both books are really good. And that's it. That's everything I picked up at the show. Even my friends who were dealers there, they all had some good books. And I got to give a shout out to the Eclectic Nerd, because as soon as I walk up, they reach into the bins and they pull out the Avengers 186. So, guys, I appreciate that. You know me, I got to have that in super high grade. They had some really good copies, but not quite high grade enough for me. But check them out. They actually do a Whatnot show. And I'm not sure of their schedule, but you can check them out on Whatnot. But their books are always fantastic. Jimmy from Battlefield Comics always brings a lot of different books. You've got some mid-level books, really good prices, and then you've got dollar books, 50-cent books, things like that. He always has a big setup, and he always has a lot of books. He's always buying a lot of stuff, and he's always moving comics. So definitely check those guys out the next time you are at the Annandale show, or going to be in Frederick at the Frederick Comic Con. They're all local right there. So great seeing those guys. But the other thing I wanted to say was we've covered the Dave Stevens books. We've covered what I picked up. We've talked about the dealers that I know. Consistently, what I find at the show and other shows too, but I see the show probably more than any other show, is you've got some dealers that are still with great books. Don't get me wrong, great books, but the prices are outrageous. And maybe it's only slightly outrageous, and maybe I'm picking up the same books for a lot less at different places. And I know that's in a case of one dealer where I just recently picked up 2 Spider-Man 252s from Infinity Comics. I feel like I'm plugging them again today. Super high grade. They were very fine plus, near mint minus graded. I just sent them into CGC and got 9.8s out on them. And I literally spent around $185 to $175 a piece for each one of those, for that quality of book. And I go to the show and I'm seeing lesser books with massive spine ticks right there on the cover, and they're trying to sell it for $325 for a book that's not going to grade out that high. And that's just one example. There are a lot of books that I have bought consistently over the last couple of years. Teen Titans number 44 and number 2, the Deathstroke issues, and those right there. I know what I've been paying for those, and I go to the show and I see these dealers with those books in particular because I see them over and over, and the prices are way out of the line. And I see them selling a lot of stuff, and maybe they're selling a lot less expensive stuff, and maybe these books aren't moving necessarily, but those are some of the dealers. And there's another one there that absolutely doesn't put prices on anything, and he has to look up everything, and his prices are always not even outrageous is not even the right term. By the time he looks them up, and then he will come back to you with a price, and then he'll cut it down, and that cut down price is still 3 to 4 times higher than what that book should go for. And I don't even go to his booth anymore. The other dealers I still stop by just to see if there's anything that will pop out. A lot of times condition will change my mind about a price on a book. I mean, honestly, that's how we should all worry about it. I mean, we worry about price, but we worry about condition. And especially with us who are getting books graded from CGC, how much we invest into the book for how much we're getting that book, what we think that grade is going to be. I mean, it really matters. And so I will be very forgiving if the price may be a little out of line, but the condition is super fantastic. That might be the one factor that I would overlook. But that one dealer, I won't even go to his booth because he just literally prices himself out before he opens the door. But that's my overall take for Annandale. Again, had a great time. Thank you for joining me today. Guys, if you enjoyed today's episode, definitely consider leaving me a comment in the comment section. Let me know what you think of the books I picked up. And if you've ever been to the Annandale Comic Book Show, or are you going to the Frederick Comic Book Show? That's definitely, you'll see me at both places on a regular basis. So thank you for joining me today. If you like this kind of content, definitely hit that like, slap the subscribe, and click on that notification bell so you guys don't miss out on any of the shows that I put out each and every week, Mondays and Fridays at 3 p.m. All right, guys, that is it for today. Thanks for joining me. I hope to see you for the next show. Have a great day, and remember, every comic has a story.